This is arguably one of the most, if not the most powerful gaming laptop on the market right now. So why does it feel so hard to actually recommend? I'm EposVox, the stream professor, and this beast and beauty of a machine is the MSI GE76 Raider. It's big, it's heavy, it's loud, but ooh boy is it powerful. Intel Core i9-11980HK CPU with 16 threads, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and 155 watt Nvidia RTX 3080 laptop GPU, and a 360 Hz screen, the fastest refresh rate I've ever used, all with mostly tasteful looks and RGB. On paper, this is the dream laptop. Heck, it's got Thunderbolt 4 and HDMI 2.1 even. For $3,400, you're getting the best specs possible. But specs don't tell the whole picture, and I'm honestly left confused by some of the choices here. Since this is an educational channel focused primarily on media creation and streaming rather than gaming benchmarks, we'll start with a couple gaming benchmarks to kind of illustrate my point, but the focus will be on those other things. Physically, this laptop is kind of awesome. It's more of a desktop replacement than a laptop per se, as it's quite heavy and has poor battery life, though not necessarily poor given what it can do, but all this hardware does drain some juice. And it's loud. The cooling system is robust, but the fan really roars, especially when you kick on the super fan mode to try to keep that CPU off the 95C mark that it tends to hover around. The port arrangement here is fantastic. 2.5 gig Ethernet, Thunderbolt 4, USB 3.2 Gen 2 and Gen 1 galore, an SD card reader that's okay, headphone combo jack, and HDMI 2.1 and mini DisplayPort 1.4 ports. You're not missing anything, really. My big complaint here with the hardware is the Wi-Fi card. With a couple of the GE76 Raider models shipped with an Intel Wi-Fi NIC, the one that I have has killer Wi-Fi instead. Just like was the case on the EVGA SC15 I reviewed for Intel a few years back, the Wi-Fi here is disappointingly slow, even just for local file transfers. I don't know why they would skimp out here, but I'm not a fan. From a repair and upgradability standpoint, I'm happy to report that removing the bottom cover gives you access to just about everything. Fans are removable, battery is swappable, you can swap the Wi-Fi card, you can swap the NVMe drive, you can add a second one, 2 DIMM slots are available to swap memory, and just the CPU and GPU are still stuck on the board. But the rest is accessible, which is a win, though kind of a must given the size anyway. The keyboard is pretty solid. The font is a little goofy, but typing-wise, it feels pretty solid and holds up great for gaming and typing. I'm super picky about my keyboard choices on laptops since I use them for script writing and emails a lot and have sensitive hands, and the GE76 Raider holds up well here. There's also some SteelSeries RGB lighting for it, which feels somewhat tasteful, all things considered. Look, it's RGB, it's something that's a lot easier to include and then turn off than to figure out how to add in after the fact, and it's stupidly expensive to roll multiple product stacks just to have one with and without lighting. Just turn it off if you hate it. The speakers get nice and loud and convincingly cover up some of the loud fan noise. I'm quite impressed, and directionality on them is actually pretty stellar too for gaming. My big point of confusion here is the screen. But before we talk about it though, let's get to some quick gaming performance benchmarks. This laptop is about as beefy as you can get in a laptop for gaming, but the slower RAM speed at 3200 MHz and the super hot CPU means you're probably leaving more performance on the table than you might expect, hearing it has a RTX 3080 in it. Rainbow Six Siege running on medium settings in Vulkan averaged 325 FPS with a minimum at 279 and max at 383. Apex Legends on mostly low settings is looking around 193 FPS on average on World's Edge, and Battlefield 4 on medium with the FPS cap set to 600 averaged around 210 FPS. The Gears of War 5 campaign on high settings averages around 186.6 FPS. CSGO's benchmark map on low settings averages around 488 FPS, so yeah. Splitgate is tough. On mostly low settings, aside from draw distance and portal quality, the average FPS is about 287.6 FPS, but the 1% lows are 116.8 and 0.1% lows are 80.3 FPS. Splitgate is a game that benefits heavily from high frame rates, but is pretty tough to run at a solid frame rate when targeting these higher numbers. Even my RTX 3090 and 10900K rig struggles with frame times and consistency when I have the frame rate cap set to 360 versus 240. It's kind of weird. You'll notice at no point other than CSGO on super low settings does any game average around 360 FPS. And even with CSGO, the lows still jump down pretty low. Not a single game I tested here can hold a rock solid 360 FPS. Now, there's fancier tuning of settings and yada yada that will probably get you a little bit closer, but your average experience does not. Why is this a problem? Because my particular model of this laptop shipped with a 360 Hz display. I thought this would be awesome, but it quickly felt completely pointless. I will note that you can buy this laptop with a 144Hz screen instead, and I would probably recommend you do just that. It is weird that there's no 240Hz panel option. Unfortunately, the screen has no adaptive sync option either, which means no G-Sync and not even G-Sync compatible. So you have a really high refresh rate screen with no way to hit that refresh rate, which just kind of seems odd to me. This is only 1080p after all. All this horsepower and I can't even hit the target refresh rate. To make matters weirder, the way this chip's configured, I can't even switch to 244Hz or 144Hz or one of those oddball 165 or 183Hz modes. You have 360 and 60. Super weird and super limiting for newbies who might honestly be better off dropping the screen to 240Hz or 144Hz and leaving it there. To change to those refresh rates, I had to use the custom resolution utility, something I had to use a ton back in the CRT days to manually add those options, since Nvidia control panel doesn't have access to the monitor itself, with there being an iGPU in place. And to its credit, once enabled through CRU, these modes do work, so you can play at 240Hz, it's just strange that they're disabled out of the box. Also, while we're talking about the screen, it's weirdly very dark. For the most part, I'm happy with it. It's clean and clear and sharp for a 1080p display, and while I struggle to game at a 17-inch 1080p monitor as I get older, it looks great, but it's very dark. Even just playing indoors with the normal indoor lighting, the screen does not get bright enough, in my opinion. Now, if you're going to use this as a true docked desktop replacement, all of this could be moot, as you could hook up any size and refresh rate or a G-Sync screen with the HDMI 2.1 compatibility, even driving the new LG CX and C1 OLED TVs at 4K 120 and things like that. This is just focusing gaming on only the laptop itself. Overall, the gaming experience on this laptop is pretty incredible for a laptop and would get you some serious frames taking it to your dorm, minimal setup, or a friend's house or LAN party, though you may have to apologize for the noise. So what about streaming? This laptop has a built-in 1080p webcam. It's noisy and soft, but about all you can usually expect from a built-in laptop webcam, I guess. For actual streaming performance, we're gonna cover single PC streaming and then touch on capabilities as a dedicated streaming PC after that. This laptop is incredibly powerful for streaming for a few reasons, all of which are on the spec sheet. The Intel Core i9-11980HK is a super powerful CPU, if hot, and it has a dedicated Nvidia GPU. This means it can shred X264 encoding, but you also get access to both Intel QuickSync and Nvidia NVENC GPU video encoders. That's so much video potential. You could stream and record in X264, record in QuickSync H264, record in NVENC H264 and H265 at the same time, at least, you know, if you were bonkers. For X264 encoding, medium is a little too intense to stream while you're playing any game that I tested. You end up with a significant performance hit to your gameplay, and there's always a fair experience-breaking amount of encoding lag. Choppy frames are us. However, in most games, X264 Fast is doable just fine with either no encoding lag or less than 1% of frames skipped. X264 Faster is the best performing in terms of zero encoding lag and least impact on your game though. Choosing between faster or fast for quality's sake may be a little tough depending on the game. That's CPU encoding. What about GPU, or GPUs? Intel QuickSync is pretty darn impressive. On both quality and balanced presets, your in-game performance is substantially higher than when streaming even on X264 Faster. In many games, there's not a significant performance cost from quality to balance either, but some games cannot stream quality without a bunch of encoding lag, such as Splitgate. Nvidia NVENC running on that glorious RTX 3080 is the best performing of the three in terms of in-game frame rates. It's wild. We're talking nearly double the in-game frame rate compared to X264 in some cases, all with never encountering a single bit of encoding lag. Something also important to note here is that all of these streams were done with the now default hardware accelerated GPU scheduling, or HAGS, setting in newer Windows 10 releases, and OBS not running as administrator, and I did not encounter any rendering lag. Very impressive. Adding on to that, this was running with the main laptop screen running at 360Hz and a secondary running at 1440p 144Hz. No issues. Very nice. Plus, recent OBS updates have fixed mostly the black screen issues when capturing on laptops with multiple GPUs. Awesome stuff here. However, if you're streaming, do keep in mind that the fan is really loud. This is going to be a problem for audio. You're likely going to need to run Nvidia broadcast noise removal or have a very noise rejecting mic like a Shure SM7B or a separate keyboard and mouse with the laptop under your desk or something. What about doing that and using the GE76 Raider as a dedicated streaming PC for your consoles or gaming PC? This laptop is in a great position for this, both for the massive encoding potential here and the I/O available. You have super fast USB 3.2 Gen 1 and Gen 2. You've got Thunderbolt 4 available as well, so any USB capture card will work fine, and you can use Thunderbolt capture devices such as from Blackmagic and AverMedia, like the AverMedia Live Gamer Bolt, which I used here in my testing. Or you could get a separate Thunderbolt enclosure and run full PCIe capture cards. If you want to stream or record 4K 60 FPS video, X264 is no-go. Frankly, that usually can't even be done on most Threadripper CPUs, but it's just fine on NVENC with 0 issues, and fine on QuickSync with balanced, but not the quality preset. 1440p can be streamed with NVENC and QuickSync and X264 on faster. 1080p can be streamed with all encoders, including X264 up to medium. Slow doesn't cut it, because say it with me, X264 Slow is not designed to run in real time. Say it back 5 times. And bam! This laptop is a beast. Lastly, the GE76 Raider is a beast for video and photo editing as well. As expected of a fast multi-core CPU like the 11980HK and a freaking RTX 3080, Photoshop runs like a breeze and it powers through Premiere and Resolve edits too. GPU decoding, fast GPU rendering, a massive 32 gigabytes of RAM makes a huge difference for this work. I used Puget Bench for these benchmark numbers, a benchmarking suite provided by Puget Systems, linked below, who make PCs for creators and industry workers everywhere, and specializing in finding the best configs for everyone's work. I don't review a lot of laptops, so we don't have much to compare to, but doing real-world editing, it runs freaking great. If you plan on streaming with this laptop, you might need some stream-safe music to rock out to. For that, we have Backing Track. Backing Track is DMCA-free, royalty-free, stream-safe rock and metal music from the 80s and 90s, designed to help you rock out and produce awesome content ready to go for your videos, live streams, podcasts, Insta Snaps, Tickety Talks, and all of that. And free to download and use, available in the links in the video description. We have a bunch of playlists on your favorite streaming services if you want to stream it over at backingtrack.gg, or we provide free downloads in both WAV, FLAC, as well as STEM downloads to remix for yourself over on our Discord server at discord.gg/EposVox. While you're checking out those links in the description, you may also want to check out a link to our merch. We have high quality blank VHS style designs for desk mats, pins, and stickers to help kit out your new streaming setup while you're at it. These reviews are a lot of work, and I'm never on time for them, but it's a lot of fun taking such a powerful piece of hardware for a ride and seeing what it can do. Overall, the MSI GE76 Raider is a really awesome laptop, and this is now my go-to streaming, gaming, and video editing workhorse for events and LAN parties, whenever those resume. I'll just have to not carry it with me when I'm going places. It's powerful, it's big, and it's loud. My biggest complaint is the 360Hz screen not having adaptive sync, never being met, and by default shipping with no lower refresh rate modes enabled. This is mostly alleviated and easily bypassed by purchasing the 144Hz panel option. Another complaint might be the slow 3200 MHz RAM holding back gaming performance, but I'd personally take the trade-off for video editing performance regardless. MSI does offer slimmer, just creative-focused laptops that might be better if you don't want both as well. Check those out. But if you want the most baller gaming, video editing, everything laptop on the market, I guess this is it. If you want to get into streaming with your baller gaming laptop, check my playlist for some beginner guides to OBS Studio. Join us on Discord, and remember, be kind, rewind.